my kings, queens, and in-betweens. This is Valerie, and welcome to my channel, The Bookish Valkyrie. So today's video is a wrap-up for the month of November. I read 19 books, 10 of them were new to me reads, and 9 of them were rereads. And even though November was a hectic month for me because of NaNoWriMo, I read more books in the month of November than I have any other month so far this year. So anyhow, I'm going to start with my lowest rating and go up to my highest rating. And I have quite a few 5 stars, like vast majority is 5 stars, but keep in mind that 9 of those are rereads, and only 1 of my rereads was not a 5 star. So, starting with 2.5, I gave that rating to a new to me read, and it was Don't Bang Your Step Bro by DJ Jameson. This is definitely my least favorite book by her, but it still wasn't terrible. So I did round up to a 3 for Goodreads and on Amazon, but it's just not my cup of tea. It was very well written. The fact that I actually finished the book says a lot, but it's just very much not for me. I feel like the 2.5 might actually even be a little bit harsh because of how much not for me it was. Like I said, the writing was really good, but at least for right now, I'm sticking with the 2.5 on that particular book. If you want more details of why this book was not for me, you can see the review that I did, the more in-depth review that I did during my NaNoWriMo Week 5 vlog. And then going on to the next rating, which is a 3.75, and this is the one reread that I did have and not give it a 5 star. The reason I reread this book, even though it isn't a favorite, is because it is the first in a series which I was starting to go back into, and it had been about a year or so since I last read the first book, and I didn't want to feel like I was missing things and forgetting things. And that book is Power Plays and Straight A's by Saxon James and Eden Finley. And while it was not my favorite book in the series, it was very well written. I enjoyed it quite a lot. The 2 main characters are a really good combination for me, but it just didn't have as much depth as I like in my romances, so I couldn't quite give it a 4. The next one that I have in the series is actually a 4 though, and that is Face-Offs and Cheap Shots. That's the second book in the series, and this one is much better character development than the first one, which, you know, to be fair, the first one was setting the scene, setting the environment, setting the tone for the rest of the series. But I really did enjoy the second book much more than the first. I felt a lot more investment in the characters for that one. And then the next 4 star for me is Line Mates and Study Dates, and I may adjust this one up to a 4.5. I just kind of need to sit with it a little bit. I had some predisposed difficulty with one of the main characters because he's such a brat. And while I really enjoy his brattiness some of the time, he really pushes that envelope real hard. He gets right up to the line and then pulls back. And for some people, he might even be going over the line. So I understand why he does what he does. It's self-destructive behavior because of grieving, and so I feel like maybe I should give him a little more grace. So I might bump it up to a 4.5. I'm not sure, but I very much appreciate his partner. It's still got a lot of depth to it and a lot of really good connections between the characters, and I really enjoyed that. But the third book in the series is where the sweet spot is for me, and that is Goal Lines and First Times. This one is exploring both characters figuring out their bisexuality or pansexual. I can't remember. One of them is pan and one of them is bi. Anytime you give me a late in life bisexual awakening, I'm here for it. And the other thing that really brought it home for me is that one of the main characters, the reason that he never did figure out until later in life that he is pan, is that he is also demisexual, and he didn't understand that about himself, and I identify with that really heavily. And I thought that it was probably the best depiction of demisexuality that I've seen so far. And the confusion of figuring it out. The only demisexual rep I've seen in my romances thus far is people figuring it out like off page, like it's something they have already figured out and it's just part of who they are, which is great representation too. But I personally felt like a real connection to watching this character delve into his identity and figuring himself out. So I really love this book. I'm probably actually going to go in and buy the physical copy of this particular volume in the series. The whole series is on Kindle Unlimited. If you are a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, or if you're interested in the series, I think it's worth at least 1 month's subscription to read the series. And I have one book left in the series to go, and I don't know that I'm going to read it this month, but maybe the start of the year I might finish the series up. And now we are solidly into the 5s. Everything from this point on is a 5-star, including Goal Lines and First Times. So the next book that I read was Until Him, and it is the first book in the Inevitable duology. This one did start out feeling like it could be gay for you because he's essentially doing sexual favors for his partner in exchange for tutoring, and because it's kind of like gay for pay, it definitely like smacks of gay for you. But ultimately I think it was very well written into a bisexual awakening. You know pretty quickly that he, like from the very first encounter, that he is definitely into what is happening. And the exchange piece of it is really well written, because it does make you really uncomfortable at certain points. So one of the characters, the character who is doing the tutoring, he holds really strongly to this exchange as a barrier to maintain some distance, because he doesn't want to get hurt. He's been hurt by people who he views as the same as the athlete guy, because his father was an athlete and he abandoned him, and then he later on had a couple of boyfriends, one in high school and one in college, that used him for basically his smarts, and then dropped him like a hotcake and told him that he was ridiculous to think that they would ever find him attractive for real. And so he's got a lot of issues with athletes in particular, and the fact that this guy is an athlete is a sticking point for him. But he's a golden retriever. This athlete is like the most golden retriever to ever golden retriever. He's absolute sunshine, and I love him. And the family dynamics are hysterical. The parents are amazing. The athlete's parents are amazing. And And there's really like a roller coaster ride in this book. I'm definitely interested in picking up the second book in the duology, which is following the athlete's brother, who is an amputee, and he like is a little over a year deep into his recovery from losing his leg in a car accident. And I'm interested to see if the author is able to write disability and recovery as well as she wrote grief and psychological dissonance. So, as she did in this book. And so I'll probably be picking that up in January as well. Now, my next one was like, it was given this was going to be 5 stars, and I was not disappointed. This next one is System Collapse by Martha Wells. It's the most recent installation of the Murderbot Diaries, and it may be my favorite. I don't know. It is definitely tied with Network Effect. And honestly, so far as I'm concerned, they're so closely tied that, yeah, they're just my favorites of the year, possibly. If you want to see a more in-depth review of that as well, it is in my week 4 and week 5 vlogs for NaNoWriMo. My next 5-star is for Bookshops and Bone Dust, which is the prequel to Legends and Lattes. And I also did a much more in-depth review for that in the week 5 vlog for NaNoWriMo. But it's definitely more gripping than Legends and Lattes is. I don't know that I can like one over the other, but it definitely has a faster pace to it. But it doesn't at all lose the coziness that Legends and Lattes has. So I still definitely recommend both books. And then my next review is a 5-star review is for the Night Eaters Volume 2, Her Little Reapers, by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takata, the same team that did Monstrous, which I have not read yet, but I have the first 2 volumes of it on my physical TBR. I have heard a lot of other people reviewing it saying that they didn't care for it as much as the first volume, but I personally think I like this more than the first volume. It definitely left you ready and waiting for volume 3. I can't really say much about it without giving any spoilers, but I personally really, really enjoyed this volume. I was expecting not to like it as much as the first because of how many people didn't like it as much as the first, but I just did. I think I liked it more than the first, honestly. My next 5-star is also a graphic novel, and that is Lore Olympus by Rachel Smith, or Smythe, however you want to say that. I can't really give you a detailed review of it because it is the 5th volume, but we are following Hades and Persephone. If you have not read the series, I 100% endorse this. Go out and read it. If you aren't sure that it's your cup of tea and you want to try it out for free, it is on Webtoons, and you can definitely check it out there and see if this is something that might be for you. But I recommend it myself. I have one more new to me read, and that is The Magic Fish by Trung Lee. I'm going to butcher this, but Nugin. I'll put the name here. And The Magic Fish is one of the most banned and challenged books in the country this year. And I really don't understand why. The there's nothing in it that is objectionable unless you are, anti-LGBT, which, if you are, I don't know why you're here on my channel. So this is just another example of people putting their politics into everybody else's business. It's a really good book, very sweet. It has a couple of different tellings of like Cinderella stories, and they are non-Eurocentric versions of the Cinderella story. It's one of those examples of how many cultures share the same basic story beats, but the details are vastly different. And the little boy in it, I would say there's two main characters. I was expecting there to only be one, but I would say that the little boy and his mother are both main characters in the way that this is told, because it's told from both of their perspectives. And it is using fairy tales and the passing on of fairy tales as a way for them to communicate with each other, and to meet in the middle with their language barriers, in that his mother speaks predominantly Vietnamese and he speaks predominantly English, and he can't find the word for gay, so he doesn't know how to tell his parents that he is gay. So instead, the stories that they read to each other throughout this book and throughout their lives are used as a medium to communicate identity and acceptance. And I think it's beautiful and it's very well done. And I did borrow it from a local library, and I will be buying it to put on my shelf because it's beautiful and I need to own it physically on my shelf. And now we're going to get into the rereads that I have, the remaining rereads that I have. So my next set of 5 stars go to volumes 2 through 6 of the Mercy Thompson series, and that is Bloodbound, Iron Kissed, Bone Crossed, Silverborn, River Marked, and so my book's toppled over, and you're welcome to go watch that in the bloopers. And that's why the lighting might look a little different and the angle might be a little different. But hopefully everything is a little more secure now. Alright, so moving on to the last Mercy Thompson book that I read last month, and that is Frostburned, and it is definitely one of my favorites in the series. I'm not going to go into very much detail with those, since they are part of a series. So I won't go into too much detail with those books since they are part of a series, but the series follows Mercy Thompson, who is a VW mechanic and a coyote shifter. She is one of my ultimate favorite heroines of all time, and I have reread this series I don't know how many times, and I will probably continue to reread it throughout the coming years. Speaking of, that brings us to White Trash Zombie, 4 and 5. And these books follow Angel Crawford, and she is a zombie. And She's fantastic. I love her, and every time I reread the series, I just love her that much more. So that is it for my November reads. I had a really good time, and if you made it this far, thank you. Go ahead and hit the like button if you liked the video, and subscribe if you want to see more. If you have any questions about the books that I read in November, or if you have any recommendations based on the books that I read in November, go ahead and put those in the comments below. And I hope you have a wonderful day. So we're doing a something dark side. I don't know what we're doing. What are we doing? Because of how strongly one the doggy drama. The most recent installment in the Murderbot Diaries.
No, not the murder dot.
The murder dot will get you. No. If you don't stop laughing at me, the murder dot will get you.
Murder dot. Is that short for Dorothy?
Yes. Dorothy. She's gonna get you.
Well then.
Kitty, stop hunting my toes. Stop it.
Hunter toes.
You murderous bitch.
Aww. She's not a bitch, she's a cat.
She can be a bitch if she wants to. You don't tell her who she can be. Okay, my murderous little child. You need to go find your Aunt Weesie.
No.
A sweetie pie. What a murderous little sweetie pie you are. Alright, and then my next 5-star review is the newest Murderbot Diaries installation by Martha Wells, System Collapse. Stop looking at me! I said it right this time!
I'm so proud of you.
Oh my gosh, you ruined it. Woo. Ah! And I definitely will continue that awkward smile. Okay, I'll try again.